This excavation is a complete violation. It has to stop right now.
This cistern is required for fire safety. Victoria, we need this.
I had lived in this community for years without ever seeing anything this extreme. The excavation was happening directly beside our emergency fire infrastructure. I walked closer, trying to figure out exactly what they were doing. That was when one of the workers quietly warned me to stay back. Victoria called the project a major improvement for the neighborhood. She said the old emergency water reservoir was being converted into something beautiful. According to her, the fountain would make our community more prestigious. Nobody seemed willing to ask what would happen to the emergency water supply. I looked at the pipe and immediately knew something was wrong. This wasn't a normal irrigation line for a decorative fountain. It was connected to the massive emergency cistern beneath the community. That reservoir was supposed to be there for one reason: fighting fires. The cistern was enormous, designed to hold a huge emergency reserve. Fire crews depended on that water when the normal municipal supply couldn't provide enough pressure. But now the reservoir was being emptied for Victoria's fountain project. I realized the neighborhood had been turned into a construction experiment. I confronted Victoria and asked why the emergency reservoir was being drained. She barely looked concerned. She told me the system was old and that professionals had approved everything, but she couldn't tell me the name of a single professional. So I started documenting everything. I photographed the pipes, the excavation, the equipment, and the water levels. I wasn't trying to start a fight with the HOA. I simply wanted proof of what was happening before someone got hurt. At the next HOA meeting, I asked a simple question: where's the emergency water going? The room suddenly became uncomfortable. Victoria answered that the project was temporary and completely under control. Victoria insisted the neighborhood had nothing to worry about. She said the fountain would actually improve property values. Several homeowners nodded because they trusted her position. I wasn't convinced. I left that meeting with more questions than answers. Something about the project didn't make sense. If the emergency system was truly unnecessary, why had it been built in the first place? I decided to find the original emergency plans. That night, I searched through every document I could access. Eventually, I found the original community infrastructure plans. The cistern wasn't decorative or optional. It was specifically designed as a dedicated emergency water reserve. The plan showed a huge reserve connected to the neighborhood's fire system. The system had been engineered around that water source. Removing it wasn't just changing landscaping. It could affect the community's emergency response capability. The next morning, I walked around checking the nearby hydrants. Everything looked normal from the outside. That almost made the situation more frightening. A dangerous problem can hide until the exact moment you need the system. By then, the crews were actively pumping water out of the cistern. The emergency reserve was disappearing hour by hour. I watched the water being redirected toward the fountain project. That was the moment I decided I couldn't stay quiet. I started talking to other homeowners. Most people had no idea what the cistern was actually for. Some thought it was simply a backup irrigation reservoir. When I explained the fire system connection, their attitudes changed immediately. Within an hour, several neighbors wanted to see the documents. We compared what the HOA had told us with the original plans. The two stories didn't match. That was when we realized this could be much bigger than a landscaping dispute. I contacted the appropriate local authorities to ask who was responsible for inspecting the emergency system. I didn't accuse anyone of wrongdoing. I simply explained what we had discovered. Then I was told that an inspection might be necessary. The next day, a fire official arrived at the community. His name was Daniel, and he immediately asked to see the emergency water system. Victoria looked surprised when she saw him. She clearly hadn't expected anyone to question the project. Daniel didn't argue with anyone. He simply inspected the pipes and checked the system configuration. His expression became more serious as he followed the connections. Finally, he asked how much water had already been removed. Victoria tried to explain that everything was temporary. Daniel asked for the engineering documents and inspection records. She said the paperwork was being handled by the HOA's contractor. That answer didn't seem to satisfy him.